When the engine went silent in the sky, I thought it was the end, but his hand covered Min, and suddenly even my fear obeyed. This was supposed to be a lesson my father ordered, a test to make me a real man. Instead, it became the moment I learned how danger strips away lies. We dropped into a meadow, branches tearing at wings, ground hammering my chest, and I realized the real crash wasn't in the sky. It was at home. My father saw how I looked at Jackson. He saw how Jackson's hand lingered on my ribs, how I didn't pull away. His rage filled the room, promising to destroy us. But later, in the dark, Jackson returned and whispered, "If you want, leave tonight." That's when I knew the true test wasn't flying. It was this choice between blood and desire, between the cage my father built and the sky that lived in Jackson's touch. Dad didn't shout. He slid an envelope across the table like a verdict. "You're going to Jackson Ward's ranch tomorrow," he said. "He'll teach you to fly. We need a pilot in this family again. No question, no room for a yes, just the order." I was 20, and already wrong in the ways that mattered to him. Wrong major, wrong friends, wrong gaze that lingered where it shouldn't. The envelope held a bus ticket, a spare key, and a number to a hangar that had lived in my father's stories longer than I'd been alive. My name looked typed like a label on a crate. Dad, it's work, not debate. He stood, chair legs scraping tile. "Jackson expects you. Pack light." Something tilted in me, the way a wing drops and the horizon slides. I packed 2 shirts, a paperback with a broken spine, and his old leather cap that still smelled of fuel and summer. The bus sighed into dust at dusk. Jackson was waiting by a sun-faded Cessna that looked stubborn more than pretty. He was 40, too, shoulders steady, hands quiet, eyes that measured before they spoke. His handshake was warm, calloused, careful. "Liam," he asked, "that's me. Your dad could grease a landing on a dinner plate," he said. "Well, see what your hands know." I wanted to say my hands belonged to books, not wings. Instead, I followed him around the airplane. He tapped metal like a doctor with a reflex hammer, named parts as if they had moods. "You listen before you lead," he said, palm flat on the wing root. Air smiles at patience and punishes pride. Inside the cockpit, everything sat closer than I expected. My knee kissed a crossbar, my elbow brushed his sleeve. He smelled of cedar soap and avgas, a mix that felt like trouble and home. My belt clicked, my mouth went dry. "Well, taxi," Jackson said. "No drama." The prop blurred into a silver coin. The airplane trembled under us, not frightened eager. He set my right hand by the throttle and placed my left on the yoke, his palm hovering until I matched the angle. "Follow," he murmured, voice low, steady. We rolled. Speed stitched into the seat. The nose got light. For a breath, the wheels whispered, and the earth loosened its hold. Then crosswind, an invisible shoulder, pushed the left wing down. My chest lurched with it. His hand closed over mine, strong, covering too much and somehow not enough. His shoulder pressed mine, warmth through cotton. With me, he said near my ear, calm like a lifeline. We eased pressure together. The wing leveled, the wheels kissed asphalt again. He released last, slowly, as if returning something borrowed. I laughed because air had to move through me or I'd shake apart. "That was your idea of no drama. That was the sky asking who you are." He cut the mixture, the engine sighed. "You answered, barely." We taxied back. Silence filled the cockpit like a confession booth. We didn't climb out right away. I watched his hands, the way they rested after work quiet, ready. Something in me had already shifted, and I didn't know how to name it. The bunkhouse was small and honest. I lay awake listening to crickets counting seconds. My hands remembered the weight of his on-minute steadiness had loaned me. I tried to file it under instruction. It refused to be paperwork. My phone buzzed. "Dad, learn fast." "Don't embarrass me." Embarrass. As if I was a mirror he needed polished. I typed 3 replies and deleted them. The ceiling felt low, like a cloud that wanted to sit on my chest. Outside, a windsock snapped and fell still. Morning came with fence and feed, the kind of chores that pretend to make a person simple. By noon we were back at the strip. "High-speed taxi, then done," Jackson said. The day had other plans. We were halfway down when a black calf wandered through a gap in the fence and onto the runway like it owned the county. I froze for a beat. He didn't. Throttle back, rudder, a quiet scurve. The left wheel lifted and came down dirty. The nose wagged. My pulse hit my teeth. "Eyes up," he said, voice unshaken. His hand covered mine again, not rescuing Gankering. I matched his pressure, the airplane forgave us. We rolled out. The calf flicked a fly with its tail and strolled away, unimpressed by men and near. Mrs. Jackson fixed the fence with baling wire while I pretended my hands were steady. When he came back, he tipped water over his hair and shook it out. Sun slid down, his throat heat crowded the space between us. I looked away and failed. Lessons over, he said gently. Rest before fatigue starts negotiating. I was almost asleep when the second message landed. Dad, don't forget why you're there. I hadn't, and yet I had. The shocking event wasn't the crosswind or the calf. It was this: a man's hand had covered mine and the world steadied, not because I'd earned it, but because he shared it. Something false cracked in me. Ith careful mask I'd kept for my father, the way I'd learned to pass through rooms as a version he could stand. I stared at the ceiling until the light thinned, and the room went soft around the edges. I wanted to be the son my father could parade, and the man whose hands didn't shake unless someone kind steadied them. I couldn't be both. That knowledge landed hard and refused to taxi off the runway. When sleep finally took me, I dreamed in silver blur and soft pressure, in a voice at my ear saying with me, in the lift that comes when you surrender and mean it. I woke with my chest tight and my palms open, as if I'd been holding pressure all night and finally let it go. The morning tasted like metal and dust. Jackson handed me a clipboard, per flight, no smile, no lecture, just the ritual that kept people honest. I ran knuckles along rivet lines, checked fuel caps, lifted ailerons. When the cowling latch stuck, he stepped close and covered my hand with his. A black line of grease crossed my wrist. He wiped it away, slow enough that my pulse tripped. You sleep, he asked. Enough to dream of crosswinds. Good. Well, ride them, not the other way around. In the cockpit, he set our headsets and watched me settle. The engine came alive. Your controls, he said. My controls. The words felt like a dare. We climbed into heat that shimmered like an unsaid thought. Jackson kept a light grip on his yoke, eyes split between instruments and me. Trim, he said. I rolled the wheel, the nose quit bobbing. Left rudder in the climb. I pushed and felt the slip settle. When a gust shouldered us, he leaned close to speak against the mic. His voice filled my headset and my head. I answered faster than my fear. We leveled over the south pasture. He pointed with 2 fingers. See that pale strip. Meadow stays dry after rain. Good emergency spot, noted. A place to fall if we had to. A promise I didn't yet understand I wanted from him. We turned patterns until my hands learned to move first and think later. On final, he said, look long. Don't stare at what scares you. The runway became something that wanted us back. We rolled out and taxied to the hangar. He shut down, sat quiet, head set off but not looking at me. Finally, your father called. My stomach dipped. What did he want? To remind me what a man should be. His mouth twitched, humor without joy. He asked me not to go easy on you. Does he think gentleness breaks bones? He thinks gentleness invites questions. Jackson turned. You'll hear mine eventually, about flying, about what you hide when you agree too quickly. What if I don't know the answer yet? Then we wait where the air is smooth and ask again later. Consequences buzzed my phone at lunch. Dad, how many hours? What did you master? Then, Ward isn't there to be your friend. I didn't answer. Jackson ate in the shade, shoulders loose, reading an old manual with a cracked spine. Afternoon, I asked, short, field work, then fence on the west line. He glanced up, you steady? No. I smiled without humor. But him showing up, that's steadier than most. We practiced short, field takeoffs and landings kind that decide if a day ends in a story or a call to someone's wife. Jackson spoke less now. He let the airplane tell on me. When I ballooned a landing, he touched the yoke with 2 fingers, almost a blessing. Patience, he said. Let the ground come to you. After chores, he tossed me a water. Our fingers brushed. Heat ran up my forearm in a line that felt instructive. He noticed and didn't move. Hands get smarter with repetition, he said, meaning one thing and maybe another. Evening went thin and gold. He rolled the Cessna out again. One more, he said. You have the controls until I say otherwise. We climbed to a height that made fences look like pencil marks. He pointed west, ridge where your dad and I slept under the wing. We thought the night could keep secrets. Did it? For a while. The headset carried his silence as clearly as words. We turned toward home. Near midfield, his palm hovered over the throttle. My knuckles were inches from his. A static pop cracked in the headset. My body answered like weather shifted. I felt the warmth of him through the space we pretended wasn't there. On downwind, I pulled power, set flaps, added a breath of rudder. The airplane settled into something like trust. We touched down. Better, he said softly, and it lodged somewhere I'd been defending for years. Back at the hangar, he coiled the fuel hose and watched light drain from the sky. I stood in the doorway, unwilling to leave. He spoke without looking at me. You're carrying more than technique. I know. Don't put it on the airplane. I want a beat. Where do I put it? He turned, eyes tired and kind, with someone who can hold it. My chest did something reckless. Like you, he breathed out. Like me, if you invite me. I didn't move closer. I didn't need to. The nearness already felt like a hand at my ribs, steadying. I don't know how to do this, I said. Well, keep it inside the lines, he answered. Well, be careful. He didn't touch me. He didn't have to. Careful was its own touch. Night fell clean. I lay in the bunkhouse, hearing every word he hadn't said. The consequences kept coming, texts from Dad, old loyalties, a history I hadn't been told. But first contact had happened, truer than a handshake and quieter than a confession, the way Jackson's presence recalibrated everything I believed about steadiness. He had asked for an invitation without taking one. I felt the yes move through me like a persistent current. Before sleep, I set an alarm for dawn. Then I typed a message I didn't send. I invite you. I let the words sit on the screen, warm and dangerous, until exhaustion made its own decision. When I slept, I dreamed of that pale strip of meadowhead Choundry after rain, meant for emergencies. In the dream, we circled it not because we had to, but because he wanted to see it with me. We floated lower, wheels grazing, our voices quiet, our hands steady, the kind of landing that made everything else feel possible. Jackson said the air would be smoother near evening, so we launched when the light thinned and the heat lost its bite. He let me handle the climb, hand resting near the throttle like a promise he might keep or withdraw. Left rudder, he said, and his voice landed inside my headset like a touch I could pretend was technical. We leveled, the ranch unrolled to a quiet idea. He tapped the windscreen with 2 fingers, that dry meadow, let's look. My stomach did a slow turn that had nothing to do with lift. We circled once, twice. You have it, he said. I eased power and trimmed for a shallow descent. The field widened, a breath held for us. At the last second, he added a whisper of throttle, and we kissed the grass so lightly the wheels seemed unsure we meant it. We rolled to a stop between pale weeds and low shadows. He shut down. The sudden quiet felt intimate and undeserved. Jackson reached behind the seat and pulled out a faded canvas bag. Don't read into this, he said, already smiling. He spread a small blanket, set down a jar of peaches and 2 sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. Pilots eat, he added. Even the nervous ones. Am not nervous, I lied. Your hands disagree. We sat cross-legged. His knee touched mine and didn't move. He passed me a sandwich, then brushed a crumb from my lip with his thumb-like head, done it before in another life. Heat rose under my skin. I felt it gather in the space under my ribs, the place that learned his voice better than the checklist. What are we doing? I asked. Landing where it's safe, he said. Then quieter, learning what we can hold. Wind carried the faint smell of cut stems. He leaned back on his hands, watching me as if checking for drift. I didn't drift, I fell. He saw it. The seeing wasn't cruel. He leaned in just far enough that I could feel his breath graze my mouth. Careful, he said. I am. Careful doesn't mean cold. I know. Then don't run, he murmured. I didn't. I met him halfway, not a surge, not a claim, just a press of mouths that felt like the soft click of a well-trimmed approach. His hand found my ribs and stopped there, warm through my shirt, as if my body held a gauge he needed steady. The world sharpened and gentled at once. I tasted peach and something like relief. We broke first because we both wanted to remember we had. He looked older and younger at the same time. This stays in the circle, he said, fingertip drawing an arc in the grass. Inside the lines, I invited you, I said. I heard. We talked about nothing for a while, bod radios, good mentors, the runway lights that sometimes refused to wake. Every small story felt like permission. When the light went honey-colored, he stood and offered a hand. I let him pull me up. He didn't let go right away. The not letting go felt louder than the kiss. We launched again at twilight. He let me take off, his palm light on my shoulder for a count that stretched. In the pattern he tested separation, your controls, my controls, the ritual steadied us. On final, I floated long, he whispered. Breathe through your fingers, and the wheels answered. We taxied to the hangar with the kind of silence that meant we'd said enough for one sky. At the doors he stopped me with a glance. Liam, if this gets heavy, we put weight where it belongs, not on the airplane, where then, on me if you need, I nodded. Something loosened that had been braced since childhood. I almost reached for him, he almost let me. We practiced not taking what we could not keep. I slept like a person who had finally found a runway. In the middle of the night, I woke with my heart too close to the surface and the shape of his hand still warm on my ribs. I whispered the words I hadn't sent. I invite you. Morning would ask for proof. I decided to answer. When dawn lifted the bunkhouse light, I knew the line we drew would guide me more than scare me now. Dad arrived unannounced, his truck scattering gravel like an argument. Jackson stood by the hangar, sleeves rolled, coiling a hose. He straightened when the door slammed. You're pushing him too fast, Dad said. He's holding, Jackson answered. Better than you think. Better isn't good enough. Dad's eyes cut to me. You're not here to make friends. The air thickened. I wanted to shrink, to vanish into the plane's shadow. Instead, I said, I'm learning. Dad studied me like a ledger. Well, see, Friday, I want to watch you fly. When he left, silence stayed like smoke. Jackson turned, jaw set. He'll judge you on takeoff and ignore every landing. He always does. You don't have to carry that. Yes, I do, I said. My voice cracked. That night, Jackson brought out charts. He spread them on the table, fingers tracing lines I couldn't follow. This isn't about him, he said. It's about what you trust when the ground drops. Ground always drops with him. He's not the sky. The words hit hard, but I didn't answer. Next evening, a storm threatened on the horizon. Jackson wanted one more flight. Winds messy, good practice, I nodded. Truth, I wanted the cockpit more than safety. With him, even turbulence felt chosen. We launched into rough air. The Cessna rattled, wings twitching. Jackson coached calm, voice steady in my headset. Breathe, small corrections, trying, stop trying, just be with me, for minutes it worked. Then a downdraft hit, the nose dropped, belt biting my chest, my hands trembled, his covered mine, heat through the headset silence. Together we pulled level, but my pulse stayed ragged. Enough, he said, we're down. On the ground, my legs shook so hard I missed the step from wing to dirt. Jackson steadied me by the elbow, fingers digging, not letting me fall. His face was inches away, rain, dark eyes searching. Why do you keep holding me like that? I whispered. Because you need it. His breath touched my cheek. Because I do, too. The words hung like live current. He let go first, stepping back, shaking his head. We can't, we already did. His eyes softened, then hardened again. Your father trusted me. If he knew he doesn't own me, he owns the sky you're flying in, Jackson said. And if he takes it, we lose everything. That night I couldn't sleep. Dad's shadow was everywhere. Jackson's nearness was louder still. The revelation wasn't the storm, wasn't the downdraft. It was this. We weren't safe anymore, not in the cockpit, not on the ground, not even in silence. The bond we'd built was already cracked, and I felt the break widening, waiting for the weight of Friday. Friday arrived. Dad idled by the fence, arms crossed, chin up. Jackson gave me the checklist. You fly, he said. I'm here. We rolled and lifted. I kept corrections small, breathing through my fingers, on downwind, short, field north, make it clean. I carried a whisper of power, flaps set. The wheels kissed. On the third circuit, the engine stutter at a hiccup, then a cough. It cleared, coughed again. Jackson's eyes cut to the gauges, fuel pressure dropping. He switched tanks, enriched mixture, pump on. The needle steadied, then sagged. My throat went tight. Another cough, deeper. The prop surged, sagged in thick silence. The airplane became a glider. Jackson's hand found the yoke beside mine. Nose down for glide. Field, I asked. South Meadow, the pale strip head shown me. Turn now, we banked. Tree line waited like raised hands. We were wrong on Both too high, then suddenly low. Airspeed, he said. Hold it, don't chase, I held it. Trees rose to meet us. We cleared one line and sank into the next. Branches scraped the belly, grabbed, let go. The left main kissed leaves and lost balance. We dropped the last 10 feet. Impact folded air. Blood was metallic. The horizon lay sideways, Liam. Jackson's voice was near and far. My left leg burned with a wrong, deep heat. I can't move my foot, Daunt. He killed master and fuel, hands moving with the same teaching calm. He pressed my shoulder, eyes here. I held his gaze. People ran in. Dad yanked the door. Alive, alive, Jackson said. Dad looked at my leg, then at Jackson. What did you do? Fuel issue, Jackson said. We took the meadow. Dad's anger cracked. He cut my belt and helped ease me out. I yelled, he said, I've got you, and I believed him. An ambulance arrived. He told paramedics, loss of power, forced landing, probable fracture left fib, patient alert. They loaded me. Dad climbed in. Jackson watched until doors shut. The hospital was cold. They set the bone and plastered it, fed me morphine. Dad sat by the bed undone. I shouldn't have pushed today, he said. You didn't, I whispered. I wanted to. I want Sue, he said. Accidents happen, he swallowed. Jackson saved your life. For 2 days Dad hovered water, blankets, no teeth. Guilt softened him. He talked feed prices and the old well pump. Stories with dull edges that didn't cut. The second night Jackson slipped in, cap in hand. Dad slept in the chair. How's the pain? He asked. Manageable when you're here, I said. He looked from the cast to my face. I keep seeing the trees, he murmured. 10 feet and no power. You held airspeed because you were beside me. I lowered my voice. You always are. He adjusted my pillow warmth reached. He didn't touch my skin. Not yet. His hand settled on the rail instead. The room hummed with air vents and what we wouldn't say. Near the door his gaze found mine and stayed there long enough that the ache softened. I'll come back tomorrow, he said. Please, I almost said, but Dad stirred, so I nodded. Morning brought a deputy with a mustache and a form. Routine report, he said. Who was pilot in command? How many times did Ward touch the controls? Dad answered, stiff. The deputy left. By afternoon the town's murmur reached us. Jackson came with a folded newspaper, worry in his eyes. They are already talking, he said, some kindly, some not, about the landing. About me, about us. My chest tightened, wanting. Dad was out for coffee, and for a minute we were unobserved. He stood close enough that I felt the shape of him in the air. His breath touched my neck when he leaned near. We stayed careful. We also didn't pretend we hadn't crossed something. Footsteps. Dad re-entered with coffee and a look holding gratitude and something darker. Evening, he said to Jackson, You checking on him? Yes, sir, good. He stood there, studying the space between us. Gratitude stayed, suspicion climbed back in. I appreciate what you did out there. Anyone would have taken the meadow, Jackson said. He flew well. Dad looked at me, then the floor. We're not enemies, he said, and walked out. That's the new weather kind above, watching underneath, Jackson whispered. I know. Then we hold our line. After he left, the room cooled in a way I understood too well. We survived the fall, then found each other again in a hospital room. The threat assembled outside. Badges, whispers, in. A father who wanted the sky back, the way it was before I learned steadiness with Jackson's hand over mine. I closed my eyes and saw the meadow, the scrape, the drop, the stillness. I also saw a hospital rail and the way our eyes found each other in fluorescent light. The day had broken me open and then held me together. Tomorrow would ask what we were willing to pay for that kind of holding. Jackson stood by the window, cap in his hands, voice low. Breathe, he said. He stepped close to adjust the blanket, fingers brushing mine. Footsteps, Dad's voice with a nurse's. The door was open. Jackson didn't step away quickly enough, and I didn't hide what crossed my face. We didn't kiss. The truth stood without moving. Dad stopped in the doorway. Out, he said to Jackson. Sir, I said out. He shut the door. Air thinned. I know how this looks, Jackson said. It looks like you using what belongs to me, Dad said. I trusted you with my son. You trusted me to keep him alive, Jackson said. I did. You did more. You've been coming here every night, Dad asked. Yes, to check his pain. Keep him steady. Steady, Dad repeated. You think I don't see. He is not say it, I said, hands trembling. Say what I am. You're my son, he said through his teeth. You're not, he turned on Jackson. Stay away from him. No, I said. He stays. Dad moved too fast. A crack split the room. Stop. The monitors jumped. Jackson didn't raise a hand. You don't want to do this, he said softly. Another step. A nurse and a guard crowded in. Dad pointed. If he walks through that door again, I call the police and press charges now. You're done at my ranch. You're done with my son. Jackson looked at me. He picked up his cap. Before he left, 2 fingers touched the rail like a wing. A nod oath, not goodbye. The nurse touched my shoulder. Need something for pain. Yes, I said, not meaning bone. Dad faced me. I told him stay away, I meant it. If he comes back, I call, you hear me? I heard, I said. Im not something you repossess when you're scared. Scared, he stared. Im saving you from a mistake. The accident saved me, I said. It showed me who stands next to me when it counts. He's older, he owes me as you distance. He owes me nothing but the truth he's already given. I'll be downstairs, he said, and left. I couldn't sleep. Every thought was the meadow and the hand that steadied me. Near midnight, a whisper, Lime, Jackson, he stepped inside, a shadow. I can't stay, he said. I shouldn't be here, but you are. Are you okay? I've been worse. He closed the door. Security knows me here. I brought the accident paperwork. He set a folder on the nightstand. He might call the police, I know. If he does, I'll be questioned first and forgiven last. He didn't smile. I came anyway. Why, because you invited me, he said. And I came to ask you a question. If you want to go, we go tonight. Wheelchair, my signature, gone by dawn. My sister has a place in Amarillo. Leave now. Before he builds fences we can't cut. You want fly for a while. We can make something fly anyway. I stared at the door, at the cast, at the life I hadn't chosen. The quiet part said yes. The loyal part said wait. What happens if we stay? I asked. He calls the police. He gets me charged with a protector's lie. He keeps you on the ranch till the cast comes off. He names it love and calls it rescue. If we go, we answer to ourselves. If we go, I said, we burn the bridge. I'll rebuild on my side, he said, and if I can't, then I'll carry you as far as it takes. He took my wrist, gentle warmth entering my pulse. I won't let you fall. He's my father, I said. He raised me. He paid for this bed. He also raised his hand, Jackson said. He didn't have to say more. I thought of the meadow scrape, the drop, the stillness, and of his voice saying with me. Okay, I whispered. If we go for real. Not to hide, to live. To live, he repeated like a checklist read. Back. He leaned in, forehead touching mine, nothing more. Give me till morning, I said. If I still say yes, we leave at sunrise. He nodded once. With me, he said, so softly it belonged to both of us. Then he was gone, the door clicking. I watched darkness lighten, the question turning into a decision with the slow certainty of dawn. Dawn leaked into the room, pale and unhurried. I hadn't slept. Every tick of the monitor sounded like a countdown. Jackson slipped in just before the first shift change, face shadowed by a cap. He didn't speak. He only looked at me, waiting. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, cast heavy, heart heavier. If we go, I whispered, there's no coming back. I know. His voice carried the steadiness that had held wings level, engines silent, my pulse frantic. We stared at the door. Behind it, my father's world, beyond it, a different one. The choice lay in the space between. Jackson reached out. Not a command, not a rescue, just an open hand. I didn't take it, not yet. My chest burned with the ache of both directions. The monitor clicked. A nurse's shoes squeaked in the hall. My father's cough echoed from downstairs. I closed my eyes. For a moment I felt the meadow against scrape, the drop, the silence, and the hand that steadied mine. When I opened them, his hand was still there, waiting. I breathed in once, sharp and clean. And the story ended on that inhale, balanced on the edge of decision, the weight of love and flight still unsolved.